Welcome everybody to today's press conference of the International Federation of Robotics. We are presenting today the results of World Robotics 2025, the global statistics on the robotics market. With that, I would like to hand over to our president to present the highlights from the World Robotics report.
I'm Takayuki Ito, current president of IFR. And I'd like to present the overview of World Robotics 2025 industrial robots. The new World Robotics 2025 statistics on industrial robot showed 42,076 robots installed in the 2024. This is more than double the number 10 years ago. And the annual installation topped 500,000 units for the fourth straight year. 2024 marks the second highest annual installation count of industrial robot in history, only 2% lower than the all-time high 2 years ago. The transition of many industries into the digital and automated age has fueled a huge surge in demand. Looking at the major customer industries, electrical and electronics took the lead again in 2024, with 2% growth. The automotive industry decreased by -7%. Strong growth was recorded for the general industries. Demand from the metal and machinery industry grew by +16%, and the plastics and chemical product industry by +18%, as well as food and beverage sector by very strong +42%, but from a much weaker basis. Over the last 10 years, the general industries have significantly increased their market share from 36% in 2014 to 53% in 2024. The installations more than tripled. Installations in the electrical and the electronics industry were just shy from the tripling in the same period and increased their share from 21% to 23%. Installations by the automotive industry rose by 34% in the same time, and thus their share declined strongly from 43% to 23%. The number of collaborative industrial robots grew by +12% in 2024 and reached 64,500 units. In 5 years, the number of cobots installed more than doubled from 2020 to 2024. In 2024, the cobot installations are back on their double-digit growth track, and which is higher than the growth rate of the total industrial robot installations. The share of cobots now is at the 12% of all industrial robot installations in 2024. Next, Dr. Müller continues the detail in each area.
Thank you, President Ito. I will dive down a little bit deeper in the regions first. In Asia, we have, you can see that on the right-hand side panel, we have 75% of the annual installations taking place. And just for comparison, 5 years ago, that was 66%. So the share of Asia remarkably increased over the past few years. And if we compare this to Europe, we had 16% most recently in 2024 and 19% 5 years ago. And in the Americas, again, we had 9% most recently and 12% 5 years ago. What does that mean in numbers? It means in Asia, we had 402,000 robots newly installed in 2024. That's up 5% from the previous year. In Europe, we had a contraction by 8%, but this is coming from a very high level, from an all-time high of 92,000 units in 2023. 2024 was 85,000, still a very high value for Europe. And in the Americas, installations were down 10% to 50,000 units. On the next slide, you can see the top 10 markets by annual installations. And the top number highlighted in red is something that we have been seeing for a while now. It's more than every other robot in the world is installed in China. Or to put it differently, for any robot installed somewhere in the world, China is also installing one. The top 5 markets have been rather consistent over many years, for many years now. That's Japan, the United States, the Republic of Korea, and Germany. There's some movement going on in the top 6 to 10. And this is most remarkably India, that now moved up to rank 6, growing by 7% to 9,100 robots being installed in 2024. Overall, the top 5 account for 80% of the total installations in the world. And the picture, since these top 5 have been rather consistent over time, the picture is rather similar also for the operational stock. Most remarkably, China crossed the 2 million units mark and now holds 43% of the global robot stock. In total, we have 4.66 million units in 2024, and this is an increase of 9% year over year. The top 5 are accounting for 76% of the total stock globally. Let's dive a little bit deeper into the top 5 markets, and starting with China. So one thing that is remarkable here is that not only the share of installations in China over the whole world is now exceeding 50%. It has been doing so for the first time in 2022. But also what you can see on the left-hand side panel is that domestic suppliers in China, and I want to clarify, this is really Chinese companies. It is not factories of international suppliers in China. Domestic suppliers have been producing 57% of the installations in China. So the local for local concept is being played here very well with a strongly growing domestic robotics industry. And this makes China not only the largest robot market, but also the largest robot producing country in the world. If we dive a little bit deeper into the customer industries on the left-hand side panel, you can see that electronics remains the largest customer in China. Installations were up 7% to almost 83,000 units. Second is automotive, down 12%, still installing 57,000 units. And on the right-hand side panel, it's worthwhile to spend a closer look to the general industries here, because not really surprisingly, we can see metal and machinery accounting for a large share here. Installations were up 31% to more than 54,000 units. But most remarkably, we can see 2 industries that we have rather seen before in being a factor for robotic installations. That's textiles and wood and furniture. And even more remarkable, all the units supplied in textile, leather, and apparel were all supplied by Chinese companies. And on the global scale, 95% of the installations in this customer segment were installed in China. So this is something where China demonstrated that they can open up new markets for the industry and find solutions where robotics have not been used before that much. And this is similar for wood and wood products. We have the second year in a row with more than 4,000 units here. Chinese domestic suppliers accounted for 91% of these installations, and China represents 85% of the global installations in the wood and furniture industry. Second largest market remains Japan. What we have been seeing here is the market is seeking for some new impetus. We have for the past few years seen a sideways trend with some cyclical ups and downs, but no new really push that brings us to a new level in the long run. The most important customers here are electrical electronics, which was down 5% to slightly less than 14,000 units in 2024, accounting for 31% of the installations in Japan. And automotive up 10% to more than 13,000 units, accounting for 29%. In the United States, we've seen a contraction by 9% to 34,000 units. But it should be noted then this is still 30% higher than it was 10 years ago, for instance. So in the long run, we can see a growth trend here as well. We can see automotive remaining the main customer of industrial robots. Installations were up 11% to 13,600 units. And then we can see several other industries, electronics and industries from the general industry, all ranging at about the same level of 3,000 units, more or less. In Germany, we can see a contraction of 5% to 27,000 units being installed in 2024. But it's from a very high base because in 2023, we had a new all-time record since we started recording robot installations of 28,000 robots. So we are coming from a very high basis here. And 27,000 units is still a strong value. It is to be noted that the automotive industry that used to be the driving force of robot demand had something, it's not an all-time low, but the lowest demand in 15 years. So the impetus coming from there that was missing in 2024. But what we have been observing over the past few years and what still continued was a strong increase of demand from the metal and machinery industry, which was up 23% to more than 6,000 units in 2024 and is now accounting for a share of 22% of the installations in Germany. I already mentioned India being on the rise, and this is mainly driven by demand from the automotive industry. 4,000 units were installed there in 2024. In total, we had 9,100 units, up 7%. And there's still a lot of potential in India, and it is widely discussed as one of the future markets. And if we compare it to other countries of similar size in terms of population, this would be China, of course. And there you can maybe see how much potential there is in theory. Coming to the trends and forecasts, I would like to highlight and really please keep in mind forecasting is this year more difficult than it had ever been. There's so much uncertainty, a lot from the political side, coming from the political side. I mean, when I was doing this forecast, I think the American tariff policies changed at least 3 times. And this creates so much uncertainty that many other associations decided not to provide any forecast at all. And we decided to do it anyway, provide our assessment based on what we know at the moment. But please be aware that this can change to the one or the other side very quickly. We think that the aggregate global trajectory remains positive. we think globally robot installations will grow by 6% to 570,000 units this year. And in the medium term, we think the 700,000 unit mark can be surpassed. But the robotics industry is not immune to global macroeconomic conditions. I already said that. This is a short-run thing that we at least think that. In the long run, there's no indication that the long-term growth trend will come to any end soon. So how do we get to globally plus 6%? This is, as you can see here, mainly driven by the expectations for Asia. We expect in 2025 growth of plus 8% here. And this is from the data that we observe for China. That is also growth we observe for India. And this, of course, has a high weight in the overall because it is the region with, as I said it before, 75% of the installations. For the Americas, we expect plus 2%, but this might change. There's a lot of uncertainty. We observed strong order intake in the first months of the year, but coming into the second half of the year, strong decline of orders was reported. And of course, an order can be cancelled. So it might turn out at plus 2, but it might be something else as well. For Europe, we are pretty sure to see a minus here. We think it will be around minus 7% this year because order intake has just been very weak here. And there's no indication that there will be growth coming soon. But we also project a few years ahead, and this is then apart from short-term variation, short-term business cycle considerations. And this makes us hope, and not only hope, but expect that there will be a continuation of the growth trend. And there are many reasons to expect that. On the next slide, one of it is already mentioned. It is that labor costs are continuing to grow, which provides an incentive to automate, to increase productivity, to be able to pay for these higher labor costs. As I said, in the short run, there are many factors of uncertainty. This includes geopolitical tensions up to violent conflicts, trade barriers of all kinds, not only tariffs, but there are also more subtle trade barriers like different standards being applied that create a market entry barrier for foreign suppliers. And overall, this high level of uncertainty across our customer industries that just makes them hesitant and reluctant to invest and really fix down their investment decisions at the moment. But we also see a lot of positive development going on, and many of that is part of the development in software, especially in artificial intelligence. And there are many different types of AI that we see now. Something that was rather newly invented is the word physical AI, and that, of course, refers to robots, because AI itself is only software. It cannot do anything in the real world. It needs a body, and this body is, for instance, a robot. And this opens up many new applications and possibilities that today we probably cannot even imagine of. So in the long run, we will see a lot of new things happening here. Of course, we have humanoids and the first single-purpose humanoids coming to the market and being tested in practice. But we will talk about humanoids later, so I will keep short on that. We have other trends, of course, going on, continuing. That is sustainability thoughts, energy consumption. We still have long-term policy goals for carbon neutrality, and we are reconsidering supply chains and different other measures to reduce our carbon output. And robots play an important role in that whole area and field. What we can also see, I demonstrated this with the China data earlier, is that we in the robotics industry see new fields of business, new customer segments being opened, people using robots that have not been using robots before. And we also see new business models involving. So the whole service segment is becoming more important, which, however, does not, at least at the moment, imply the topic of robots as a service, which still seems to be rather uncommon in industrial robotics. It is still much more common in service robotics. But there are many other services going along with the use of robot technology, and this is definitely a segment where growing sales can be recorded. Yes, in many parts of the world, in many countries, we still have the issue of labor shortage, and robots are something that address this problem, helping to fill gaps and help workers to do their work, even if there is a general lack of qualified workforce.